There we go. Don't worry, Kathy, if you're having trouble with video, that's fine. Guys, use the chat box, please. As Jeanette's talking, if anything crops up or if there's something you suddenly think of, pop it in the chat box. I'll keep a note. And then towards the end, we can go over Q's and A's with Jeanette as well. But I'm so happy to see so many of you on the call. Thank you so much for giving up some of your time this evening, giving up a bit of sunshine and sundowners at sunset just to be on this call. But I'm really happy to be featuring my lovely friend, a client of mine as well now,
yes,
and a phenomenal coach, Jeanette. We met through our networking group in Kent. She's really well connected, and she's doing fabulous things for her own health and well-being, including being part of the B plan and using the capsules, which I'm sure a lot of you use or are aware of, because diet is so important for us as women juggling life. But of course, as soon as you hit the menopause, it's like adding another 100% to your plate, because you know your body is massively changing. So I was very lucky to do a talk for Jeanette's group about diet and nutrition for menopause, and I really wanted her to come in to give her top tips, because you know 50% of the population are women, and menopause is not being talked about, and yet it's going to happen to 50% of people on the planet. And I really think more needs to be done. We need to be talking about it, and we need to have little tools in our toolkit for when it happens, because it affects everybody very differently. So Jeanette, darling, I'm just going to hand over to you. Tell us about you, how you got into what you do, and yeah.
I will do. So what I'm going to do, ladies, I'm going to share my screen. So I've got some slides, and those bits that Chloe just said, tell you all about me, is part of that as well. Let's see if we can get this to work. There we go. So good evening, everybody, and thank you, Chloe, for inviting me here. So I am hopefully going to be able to give you some top tips and my own little secrets how you can thrive through menopause and beyond, because this is about how we live our lives in the future as well as how we live our lives right now. Find the button that turns the screen. There we go. So things we're going to do, we'll run through really quickly the what, why, when, and how of menopause, because it is useful to recap those things and think about where we are. Look at some of the different treatment options. So we'll look at HRT, alternative complementary therapies, lifestyle changes, which includes my favorite thing, my menopause lifesavers, and then a few coping strategies that you can use. And then, as we said, there'll be time for some questions. So do pop them in the chat as we go along. So a little bit about me. That's me, all my lovely pictures up there. So I am postmenopausal, 58. In a couple of months, I'll be 59. Although I discovered I went into perimenopause at the age of 47. And like one of the ladies earlier, I didn't realise that. I was working in the civil service, and I suddenly started to have severe anxiety, depression, and just that sense of being unable to cope. Some mornings it was as much as I could do to get out of bed and put the right shoes on. And in fact, one day I did go into the office with a navy shoe and a black shoe on, because they were the same shoes. And that was just one of those things that I was like, oh my Lord, look what I've just done. And actually being in the office, I couldn't think straight. Everything was so difficult. And I ended up in floods of tears, and some of my girlfriends went, right, we're getting you in a taxi, you're going home, and you're going to call the doctor. At that point, doctor diagnosed me as having depression. And I was just so relieved to have a name put to what I was feeling. I wasn't actually experiencing many of the other symptoms of perimenopause, because I was on a contraceptive implant that had stopped my periods. So the usual things that you would look for weren't there. But at age 47, there should have been a conversation around that, could it be? I actually didn't get fully diagnosed, and I hate that phrase because obviously it's not an illness, but it wasn't until I was 55, they removed the contraceptive implant, and then of course never had a period. And they went, oh, you're postmenopausal. And at that point, that's when the lovely symptoms, the hot flushes, the night sweats, things like that started to kick in. I'd struggled with mood swings from the days when I had anxiety and depression. So it got really difficult. And it was only at that point that I was actually given some help and some HRT. I was struggling in the office, feeling overlooked, not able to do the job again, and it was all due to my experiences of being in that menopausal transition. I've been working as a life and wellness coach, particularly around the whole menopausal transition for the past 3 years, but I've been a coach in my HR career for over 20 years, and particularly very keen, and I suppose it's the feminist in me. I've always worked on gender equality and women's place in the workplace. So it wasn't a surprise that when I decided the workplace and corporate life was no longer for me, that I was going to leave and start to work to help women. I set up Phoenix Wellness Coaching in 2020, right at the end of the pandemic, or thereabouts, October time. And my aim and my mission has always been the same, and that is to improve the experience of women through menopause. I want thousands, even millions of women, and to start making menopause a positive conversation so that we don't look at it as an illness, and we find the positives and the opportunities that the menopause can give us. So I don't know if you were aware, but there are a few animals in the world that do actually experience a scientific menopause similar to us. And those include pilot whales, killer whales, belugas, and narwhals. They're those animals that tend to be very long-lived. And that's part of the issue in the 1800s. A young child, a female child, wasn't expected to live beyond her late 30s, possibly early 40s. So menopause never actually came up. We're much longer lived now, and that's why it's becoming much more of a conversation. But also, there are other animals such as elephants, gorillas, and lions that live in family groups. They tend to have what we call a societal menopause. So they opt out of rearing any young in order for the younger generations to come through. That helps, support their existing families. When you think about, you have the matriarch in the elephant group, that's the oldest one there, and they help to bring the youngsters along and teach them about the way of life. And it keeps their gene pool in really good integrity. So they choose to not rear children. So they kind of have a societal menopause rather than a scientific one. So very briefly, menopausal transition, why does it happen? Basically, as women, we are born with a finite number of oocytes or eggs. They're immature. When we're born, we have millions of them, but they reduce down very quickly. So it's a finite number. And when those have been depleted, our bodies go into menopause. So our ovaries that produce estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone stop doing that. And then we go into menopause and stop having our periods. But there is a big lead up into that. This graph is quite an interesting one. So you can see that where the peaks and the troughs are on your estrogen and progesterone levels, particularly, as you go through your teens. We all know puberty is hard work. And then when you're into your reproductive years, progesterone spikes quite regularly because that's the hormone that's released to encourage your body to actually thicken the lining of the womb and then release it if you don't fall pregnant. And then as you move into your menopausal stage, your progesterone levels pretty much disappear and level out. Whereas, as you can see, your estrogen, look, never say it, estrogen, I'll say there, it spikes all over the place. And that's the bit that actually causes us so many of those issues and those symptoms. 4 very clear areas and transitions, which I know you'll know about. Premenopause just means you're still in your fertile years. Nothing's changed. Perimenopause is the period that they call around menopause. So that can be anything from a couple of months up to 8 to 10 years. Menopause is the moment that you stop your periods, and it's 12 months since your last period. And from then onwards, you're called postmenopausal. Throughout those 3, perimenopause and postmenopause, you can experience various different symptoms because of the fluctuations in your hormones. And sadly, as you get to postmenopause, it doesn't actually always mean that those symptoms stop. You might, like I did, I can see Vicky shaking her head. I started getting symptoms that I hadn't had before. Some have disappeared, other ones have taken their place, or, you know, the hot flushes and things like that aren't as bad as they used to be. So they can change as you go along. So the average age for menopause in the UK, that's the moment when you're 12 months since your last period, is around the age of 51. But things are changing. I know I'm talking to many more women that are in their early to mid 40s. They're starting to see these perimenopausal symptoms coming through, changes in their periods, starting to feel hot flushes, mood swings, and brain fog. But the official figures say that only 10% will experience early menopause, which is that period 40 to 45, and then a really small number under the age of 40. Of course, not everybody will experience a natural menopause. If you've had surgery, like hysterectomy, or you've had fibroids, you've had radio or chemotherapy for cancer treatment, that will cause you to go into peri and menopause, and also hormone blocking drugs. So we're thinking there for our transgender population, when they're transitioning, they're going to try and block those hormones, and that will cause them to go into perimenopause or menopause. So symptoms, there are around, depending on where you look, anything from 30 to over 60 different symptoms that you can experience through your menopausal transition. These are some of the key ones that we're going to talk about. So we'll talk about basometer, which is basically the official term for hot flushes and cold sweats and night sweats. We'll talk about some of the psychological and physical symptoms, some of how it can affect our genitourinary systems, and also our periods. I put a link there. If you think you might be going into peri, or you're in it, or you're not quite sure, I have a free quiz that you can do that will help you to monitor your symptoms. You can do it as many times as you want, especially useful when you're about to go and talk to your doctor, especially if you're quite young as well. So basometer symptoms, I did a live on Tuesday around why do we suffer with hot sweats? And basically our thermoneutral zone, which is that part in our body where we're able to self-regulate our temperature, that closes considerably. It's all to do with the drop in estrogen and progesterone, and that triggers drops in other hormones that come from the pituitary gland. So that area where we feel comfortable closes, which means our body temperature, peaks and troughs are the same, but because the thermoneutral zone is smaller, you're more likely to feel that hot flush, that sweating. Equally, you can feel a cold chill as well. I will find at night, I'll have a night sweat, wakes me up, I throw all the covers off, I've got a leg hanging out of the bed, and then within a couple of minutes, I'm shivering uncontrollably because I'm cold. So I pull all the covers back on again. And it's no wonder I don't sleep very well when that happens. But it's part of, actually, as we age, it's a little bit like when we're babies, and as our mums help us to regulate our body temperature. We don't want to put too many covers on them at night, lay a certain way, because again, in those early days, we can't regulate our body temperature as well. So in effect, menopause is going backwards. We're getting younger. We're doing puberty in reverse, and we're going back to those early days. So we have to think of it as a positive there. Psychological symptoms, you all know these. Mood swings, brain fog, where you can't concentrate, lack of clarity, making mistakes, low self-confidence, low self-esteem. All those sorts of things can come into it. You might find yourself crying one moment and really angry the next. My tolerance levels went from being very, very broad to being absolutely minute. And I had no tolerance. I would get angry really quickly. Again, that's all to do with those hormonal imbalances. Physical symptoms, we can put on weight. We start to put on weight in different places. So our body shape changes. We might find our digestion changes. This is where Chloe and her B plan really comes in to the fore, because we're not as well able to actually process our food. We might get intolerances, we might get IBS, we get bloating, all those delightful things that we all love to have. And then your urinary symptoms. I have to put a pair of new false teeth in tonight. Again, these are things that we don't like talking about. So incontinence, bladder and bowel incontinence can happen. We find that we're less able to hold on to our wee when we need to go. So you might get urgency incontinence, or you might actually get stress incontinence. So, I, as a past runner, hated it. If I was running and I had to cough, that was just a nightmare. I think trampolines or other things that I've heard ladies say, it's where our skin and our cells are starting to dry out. They lose some of their elasticity, and therefore they don't work as well. So those little sphincter muscles don't stay as closed. And also we can be prone to suffering with more urinary tract infections. They can come to the fore because of the fact that all those cells lower down are a lot thinner, and bugs and infections can travel much easier. And then it goes without saying, changes to our periods. A lot of people think you get through menopause and your periods just stop and hey, whoopee, it's all over and done with. That's not, or it's very rarely the case. Your periods, you might go a few months with no period, or you might find you only go a couple of weeks between periods. They can be lighter, or they can be much heavier. A lot of women find that they really flood and have blood clots. They can become more painful. You might find you get headaches with them. All different things. Everybody is different, and that's why it's quite difficult to really say that there is one size of the journey. So obviously, because everybody's journey is different, there's different ways of managing and feeling better about your menopause journey. So in terms of treatment, just understanding what's going on for you can be sufficient. So attending events like this or doing your research, there's lots of great books out there, that can be enough. HRT is a great one, and we'll talk about that. Non-HRT prescription drugs, a lot of those can be things like antidepressants or blood pressure medication, and there is pregabalin, which is an epilepsy treatment. Those can work. But of course, if you would prefer not to go down a pharmaceutical route, there are lots of complementary therapies, psychological, herbal remedies, and lifestyles, which we will be dipping into shortly. The big thing to understand with HRT is concerns and research, it's changing. Attitudes are changing to HRT. That's why there's such a shortage of it in this country, because we've got so many women that are actually opting to go on it. There are 3 different types of HRT. There are synthetic pharmaceuticals that, they have been around a long time. They do carry other risks. Or there are body identical, which are, again, they are manufactured, but they're manufactured in a way that the hormones that are being replaced act like your own hormones. So they're much better for us. Then there's bioidentical, which they're not really licensed in this country. They are elsewhere around the world because there just isn't the research. And there's lots of different ways that you can take HRT. It's no longer just a tablet that you take. There's patches, there's gels, there's sprays, there's creams, there's devices that you can use intrauterine, like the Mirena coil, and also there are estrogen gel rings that you can insert into the vagina as well. So there are so many different ways, and also those that are topical or absorbed through your skin carry lower risks because the dose is much lower. HRT has lots of benefits. One, it will help to minimize your symptoms, especially if they're quite debilitating for you. It will also help with brain function, because estrogen is really important for our brain and our cognitive function. So losing it means that more women, there's a higher likelihood in women getting dementia and MS and Parkinson's. So it can be really good for your brain health. And obviously it's really good for bone health as well, because it will help against osteoporosis. There are risks. Obviously there always are with medications, but those risks are a lot lower if you are somebody that leads a healthy lifestyle, you're fit, you have a good diet. If you're overweight or obese, or you're a heavy drinker or a smoker, your risks increase about 8 times. So again, if you're, relatively healthy, the risks are much lower of breast cancer. And actually, taking HRT can minimize some of those risks from cardiovascular as well. Testosterone therapy is not widely given in this country. It's only used to compensate if you're having really low sex drive. And there are no therapies that are female testosterone. So they use the male testosterone, but it's used in very small amounts so that it's not going to cause you to, turn into a guy, in effect. But it can be useful if you're having, sexual issues and low libido, then some doctors will prescribe testosterone therapy. These ones I love. I take HRT, but I also really like looking at the whole holistic approach. So there's lots of complementary therapies that you can try. Acupuncture is really, really good. My dog's just come in the room and is barking, so hopefully you can't hear him through my headphones, but I can hear him now. My husband is sitting outside playing with him, which is not good. But acupuncture is really, really good. It can help you by using the needles in the pressure points to actually bring down some of those symptoms. Hypnotherapy, again, will help to change your response, the way you think and experience your menopause. CBT, cognitive behavior therapy, specifically for menopause, is reasonably new, but it's having some really, really good results. That's where I say there's a lot around mind over matter. So it works on your mindset, your thought processes, and helps you to change those. Mindfulness and meditation are great because they help you to relax, they help you to focus in the here and now, and they bring those stress levels down. When we're stressed, our menopausal symptoms can be and often are much worse. Herbal remedies and supplements are great. Again, you must do your research. Make sure that if you've got any underlying health conditions or you're taking other medications, make sure that these are okay, because some can react. Ones I tend to use there, I don't use red clover or black cohosh, but they are really good for hot sweats and your hot flushes. Evening primrose oil, again, is really good for hot flushes. Ashwagandha is my go-to. I love this one. It is so good at helping with your cognitive function. It's great on mood swings, anxiety, and brain fog. It really, really helps. I've been taking that for about 3 years, and there's no way anyone's going to take that bottle of particular pills away from me. It really is a good one. And again, vitamins and minerals. Chloe, your B plan with your capsules are going to help big time here, because we can't get the vitamins and the minerals we need from our food because we're just not, it's too processed, and we're not able to eat enough of them in those quantities. Things like magnesium and zinc, very, very important. Most women will be deficient in those minerals. Really important. Magnesium is a great one for sleep, which we can struggle with as we go through menopause. And then lifestyle changes. There are no silver bullets or easy answers to this one, ladies. So I have my lifesavers. So these are my little row of rubber rings that are hanging up in case I feel that I'm drowning. And I can pick each one off as and when I need or want to. They're very simple. And I talk to people and say, think of yourself as a lovely, shiny, bright red Ferrari. Or you could be a fantastic racehorse, whatever. is that pinnacle for you. And think about, if that was you, how would you treat your body? And I bet you wouldn't put, you wouldn't put diesel in a lovely Ferrari, because it's going to muck up the engine. You'd make sure it's got the right amount of oil in there, that the tires are good, it has a service. So think of these as your MOT. Fuel your body, eat a healthy diet, 100% important. Try and avoid those highly processed foods that are so bad for us. Give up your takeaways. Think about alcohol. Alcohol can, at certain times in menopause, really trigger hot flushes, and other times they reckon it helps it. So again, if you like a drink, it's moderation. Think about cutting back on the sugars and other toxins that you're putting in your body. Put in that's really good, healthy foods. Take Chloe's capsules to add to it, definitely. But your berries are really good for you. All those antioxidants, your cruciferous vegetables. I've just had dinner with cauliflower, broccoli, and if I could put sprouts in there, I would. Doesn't help with the bloating and those sorts of symptoms, but they're really good. Things, again, if you can add seeds and nuts to your diet, flax seeds are amazing. They are a superfood. They're really, really good, and they are a phytoestrogen. So they will put an element of natural estrogens back into your body. Make sure you're doing this. Hydration, again, as your cells dry out, hydration is really important. You want to take collagen supplements, it's really worthwhile. So put more of the good stuff in and leave out more of the bad stuff. Second one, move your body. You'll notice there I don't say exercise. You don't have to be a gym bunny doing loads and loads of exercise, but try to set aside time to move your body every single day. I will walk every day. It's fantastic because I get my vitamin D and it's great for my mental health, and I'm moving. Walking can be cardio and restorative, depending on how you're going to walk. If you're doing a nice fast walk, great, you're working your cardiovascular system, you're burning calories. If you're walking slower, much more mindfully, taking in what's going on around you, can be really restorative. If you can add some resistance training in there, and that could be, again, walking is great for that, or if you want to do some squats whilst you're making a cup of tea, a water bottle when it's full can act like a weight. It's putting the extra weight and pressure onto your bones and your muscles so that you can actually look after them better. And then if you can put in some restorative training, so yoga, Pilates, things like that, not only is that going to reduce your stress, it's going to help you with flexibility, balance, and coordination. They're really important. So they're the things to do for your physical body. The next three really tackle those situations where I hear a lot of women that say, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know what I want to do. I've lost connection with myself. I've been mum all this time and now the kids have gone and I don't know what's left for me. I'm not sure about this relationship with myself. So these three will really help you with that. So follow your passion. I always say that's take more time to do more of the things that make you smile, because they're so good for your general well-being. When you're smiling, when you're happy, it lifts your mood. It's great. It takes a lot of the pressure off your immune system and it just makes you smile. And that's so important. And when you're following things that you like doing, you're passionate about, you're going to find you're good at them as well. So that boosts your self-confidence. And you will probably find that you will be surrounding yourself with people that also like doing those things. So you're building connection. A lot of the dogs just as we go through menopause, we can lose that connection to ourselves and to others. Those times when you're in the children at school, talking to them, just want something.
Gonna say your sound's gone a bit crazy. Naughty doggy. Just in from his dog walk. He's not going out the room. Oh, Jeanette. It's like one of those episodes of It'll Be All Right on the Night.
Oh my Lord, I'm trying to work. The dog's kicking off, the cat's in the lounge, they hate each other. Talk about stresses. That's all right. Now the husband is just sitting down playing with the cat.
No, it's lucky
playing with the dog by my feet.
It's lucky you're at the menopause, Jeanette. That would have caused a hot flush and a meltdown, wouldn't it?
It is actually. The joys. Sorry about that, ladies. Yeah, building connection. Again, it is this, you might lose connection to yourself where you've given everything of yourself to other people. So that is about take time for you. Put yourself first on your to-do list. And I say to people, do one thing a day that is for you and you alone, that you enjoy. Sorry. So yeah, do one thing for you alone. And that, you know, I talked to one client who said, yeah, I go for a walk. So I go to the school and I pick up the kids and then we go for a walk. It's like, you're not doing it for you. It means doing something on your own so that you can focus on you and your needs. And that builds that connection back to yourself. You have that opportunity to reflect and think, where am I going? What do I want out of my life? I will have a meltdown with this dog. Sorry, ladies. Let me just put myself on mute for a sec.
So guys, what sort of tips are you getting from this? Please share it in the chat box. I know there's been loads of comments and stuff. If questions are coming up though to ask, please ask. And your top takeaways, tips, thoughts, pop them in the chat.
I am back after yelling at my husband. Sorry about that. So yeah, building the connection is really important. I also like in terms of building connection, I used to do Zumba, which was great fitness. And I met lots of new people that I didn't know before. So I got to have fun with them and I'm still friends with them, even though I'm not doing that type of exercise now. It's just really important. It's a bit like being in this group so that you're not one on your own. There's other people around you. It's your support network. And then find your purpose. Often we get to this stage of our lives, our children have grown up. We've maybe decided our jobs aren't quite serving us anymore, which was my thought. Find out what that one thing is that really makes you tick, that you're really passionate about. For me, it was helping other women. That's what I've always done throughout my career. This felt like a next natural stage. And again, you might well find more people, more connections, which I had by meeting Chloe and all of you ladies. It's all about having those things that are important for your well-being. So I like to look at these. If you can do, it's 5 a day, you won't get to do them all in one day, although you could decide that you want to take up salsa dancing because it'll move your body. It's fun. You'll meet new people, and you never know, you might want to find yourself on, Strictly Come Dancing in the future, or you might want to become a music teacher, things like that. Menopause gives you an opportunity to think differently. And I just like these 5 a day because it keeps me thinking about actually what do I need at this moment in time. If I'm doing the top 2, great. Am I following my passion? Have I built a connection? And, when you build those things into your life, you will find that you feel much more positive. And these, I've just got a couple of coping strategies. Again, this is around mindset. So if you can have a positive mindset around menopause, it's going to help you in the way that you respond and react to what's happening to your body. It's a transition. It can be messy. So I like to think about the 3 stages of moving in, moving through, and moving out. So moving in is obviously moving in and moving through our perimenopause. Moving out is menopause and postmenopause. And thinking about at each of those stages, what do I need? What do I have that will help me through this stage? And if you can, as you're going through that mess, if you can focus on the moving out, on where you're going to next, who you want to be, how you want to live your life, what you want to be doing, you're going to have a more positive experience because you're actually focusing on the future. You've accepted you've got to go through this, you're going to go through it, you're looking towards the future. So I use this one quite a lot, and it is all about how we respond to change and the transition. And then just the last one, my 4 boxes, which again is a way of looking at your response to menopause. You can use this in any sort of change or situation. So first up, what's the situation you're in? What's your response to it? Do you have control over it? A lot in menopause we don't have control over, but thinking about what could I control? So if I want to control and have a better experience of the symptoms, then I can think about diet, lifestyle, complementary therapies, things like that. It's thinking about what we've got there that can help us with that situation. Self is very much about what we've got inside, our actual ability to cope, our resilience, what we've learned about how we've adapted to things in the past, how we can bring those experiences in. Also, our barometer. Some people are better at coping with change than others. They find it quite difficult. Just understanding what you personally can bring to your situation. And then support. Where can you get help? Is that talking to your partner, sending him on a course, joining a women's group, researching, reading books, joining Facebook groups? What do I need and where can I get that help that will get me through this? And then strategies. That is really, what am I going to do that's going to help me? How can I be adaptable and flexible so that I can actually cope with this transition, and so that it's going to be as positive experience as it can be, rather than, oh my God, it's awful. So it's just some good exercises just to reflect on where I am and how can I do this? What can I do to make this experience the best it can be? And also remember, it helps you then to think about the opportunities that menopause can give you. There are freedoms that you might not have realized. You might find that actually when you're thinking about the future, you want a different career path, you want to learn something new, because it can unlock some of those feelings for you. I'm going to stop there. And aside from the dog World War III kicking off with the pets in my house, questions? What have we got?
So I'll make sure when I so for some reason the Facebook Live quit out, so I'm going to put this recording into the Facebook group, and I'll put these details. Let me just grab a screenshot of this. But guys, please do reach out to Jeanette on these details. She's got a phenomenal, she's so good in her Facebook group. She's going live in there all the time, always posting tips and tricks and ideas and things like that in there. Couple of little thingies. There was a couple of questions I saw come out. There's been a lot of chat in there, but the first question was one to be said for later. One person asked, would you take all of the herbal remedies and things all at once? I suggested phasing it in and see which one really works.
Yeah. I wouldn't take them all at once, because you've got to work out, as you say, Chloe, what one's going to work for you. They might have side effects for you, especially if you've got if you're taking other medication, or you've got an underlying health condition. And sometimes if you take so many all at the same time, they kind of negate the good that they're supposed to be doing. So I would try them separately, see what works for you, do the research, see what you want to cover, and then try them individually.
And then Beth said, a question for the end. is how much does good health affect menopause symptoms? Has there ever been any studies on this or anecdotal testimonials?
So there are studies, and it is known that some conditions can make menopause more difficult. So some conditions like epilepsy, there's a lot of research at the moment around the impact of ADHD and neurodiversity, so autism and things like that. Obviously, and with autism, it's very much around routine and feeling certain. And of course, menopause puts uncertainty in there, and some of the HRT will react to any medications they might take. So there's more research going on as we speak, but it's well known, or say that, if you come into that perimenopause overweight, not very fit and healthy, with a poor diet, your experience could be more difficult than somebody else's. It's not guaranteed because we all have completely different experiences, but certainly being overweight and unfit, not having a healthy diet is going to have an impact, because all those foods that we're eating are going to muck up. If you're overweight, you've got more estrogen receptors because fat cells love estrogen, and then you will find your estrogen dominant, which will cause other complications. But there's a lot of research going on, but it gets difficult because you'll find one that says being fit and healthy is bad for you in menopause, and they can cross one out with the other. But the general feeling is if you're fit and healthy, you should by rights have a better experience, because you'll be better able to cope, or your body will be able to cope better.
Yeah, fabulous. Anybody else got any other questions? I'm aware of the time, but we've still got a few minutes. Any questions or thoughts?
Beth said about St. John's wort, gave her sister horrific dreams and nightmares. St. John's wort is one that you do need to be careful on, because it can do that. It can be very good, but it can also be very tough as well. It can cause all sorts of issues. So again, it's trying them. I think I take amitriptyline, antidepressant, to help me to sleep, because my brain doesn't want to switch off, and that causes me all sorts of problems. But the amitriptyline, I only take a very low dose, and it just relaxes me. I have a girlfriend who takes exactly the same dose, and she can't function in the morning because it knocks her out, or she has really bad nightmares. That's an interesting one, Beth. CBD oil. I haven't read any studies on it or tried it. So it's something that I keep thinking, go and have a look and see, because it's good for so many other conditions. So it might have some positive benefits, but wouldn't know at this stage. So it's a bit of research on my list.
And I know there's the natural one that my business partner Jeff recommends in clinic as a bioidentical hormone one. But yeah, you work with your friend Lisa, who's a expert on the medical side. She was like, unless it's been properly, and I was like, well, I don't know, but there's a natural one that I've shared with a few clients and stuff. I'll pop the link in, you can have a look, read the comment.
I think the key there is, obviously Lisa is an NHS nurse, she's a menopause specialist nurse, and so she will want to keep within these scientific studies and things like that, and be very certain on things. But again, Jeff runs a clinic, he knows what he's doing. The bioidentical products that you can buy, the creams and different things like that, get really good results. So it's one of those things that you have to have that conversation and assess the risks and benefits yourself, and decide on what you've seen, whether it's the right thing to do. There's lots of talk about joint pain. Joint pain does come or can come with menopause, because the loss of estrogen impacts all of our connective tissues. So collagen supplements will help, because it gives you back that elasticity. Drinking, staying hydrated. Omegas are very good. you know, I know with Chloe's plan, they're the plant omegas, but omega-3 and omega-6 are very, very good. They're very good for cognitive function as well. So they will really help if you're struggling with brain fog. But again, aches and pains, unless you're diagnosed with something like FM or PMR, things like that, actually moving your body regularly, not to excess, but gradually and regularly will help. Things like yoga, Pilates, those things that actually, those exercises that build flexibility and strength, but don't put over pressure on the joints, they're going to help as well.
Fabulous. Great. Well,
excellent.
Guys, I think if there's no other questions at all, please do reach out to Jeanette. Go and find her Phoenix Wellness Coaching page on Facebook. This will all get loaded up into the Wellness Hub tomorrow with Jeanette's contact details and stuff as well. But just get in touch, have a chat, and check out her page and what she's doing. Yeah. And thank you so much for giving up your time tonight.
Yeah, it's lovely to see you all.
Yeah, really appreciate you all coming on. It's absolutely brilliant. So I'm doing another guest speaker event on the 4th of July at 8 p.m. Jake, who's a hypnotherapist, is talking how to take your stress to success, converting stress to success in the mind. So I think that's one that most people are like, yeah, I could benefit from that. He works with stressed executives, professional athletes to overcome their limiting beliefs and all that kind of stuff. He's very, very good. So he'll be doing a talk for us on the 4th of July and another one on the 18th. They're all on Tuesdays. Sorry, I don't know why. My lovely friend Francoise, who's a PT and coach, she's going to be doing pelvic floor with a difference.
Ooh.
So if you're somebody that's scared to run, I had to do the mother's race the other day and I quickly nipped to the toilet as I had to sprint across an astro pitch, and I was like, oh, I might just go for a quick wee. Or jumping on a trampoline frightens you, then come on Francoise's call, because again, it's a reality for a lot of women, especially if you've pushed some babies out. And yeah, she's going to be talking about pelvic floor, but she says with a difference, like adding in some stuff that you might not have heard before. So that's the 4th and the 18th at 8 p.m.
I shall be putting those in my diary for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Alrighty, guys. Thank you so much, and yeah, always appreciate your support. And Jeanette, that was absolutely brilliant. I'm so glad I've got the recording of that. Thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and meeting all your lovely ladies. Alison, pelvic floors, yes, please.
Yeah. Alrighty. See you guys. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.